was in 34th Avenue and East 16th Street that I really have my fondest memories, and I call that truly home. It was there that I come to realize that that saying that it takes a village to raise a family was very, very true back in hindsight, because it was truly a nurturing place. Our life was centered around the parish, the school, the families living on the block. And I believe that possibly that was the first time that's where my vocation was truly nourished, and the first time I met our sisters, because I went to school at St. Elizabeth's, which the elementary school and the high school, and in those days the school was right across the street.
This was a photo of my family. It was taken on Easter down at Dolores Park, because my father knew somebody who had a camera that took colored film.
Oh my goodness.
What was the date? Well, my brother was born in 49. Mm-hmm. So it was the first colored picture, of the three of us with the red head, and then my parents.
Mm-hmm. I'm from Louisiana, and it's a community of people that live around a river. We call it Cane River, and it's a big river. Mm-hmm. And we have a church, St. Augustine, that everybody go to, and there's they have an auditorium and a recreation place where most of the recreation used to always be there. Whatever we had, we went there for it.
Were both your parents from that area?
Oh, yes. Yes. They knew one another from young, when they were young. Well, there was 12 of us. 2 of them died already. Well, my mother had only 6. I was the only girl, and I had 5 brothers. So after my father married again, then we had 12 altogether.
How old were you when your mother died?
I was 10.
My godparents were very significant in my life. In Mexican families, the godparents are pretty much equal to your parents. And so Romy and Joseph Raya were my godparents, and they were very significant in my life, from when I was very little all the way through when I was here in our congregation. And I have such great memories being at their house. They lived in Placentia at the time, and it was kind of we called it a ranch house. In the backyard there was avocado trees and orange trees, and my family, they were basically avocado and orange pickers. And so that was pretty much my life at an early age.
Oh, my photos. Okay, sure. I would be happy to do that. This is a photo of my family. I have in this picture 2 brothers and 3 sisters. I had one brother who died as an infant, so there would be 7 of us, but there are 6 living. Okay. Then this is a picture of my mother when she was, I think, about 20. And I think she was a very beautiful person. So this is a picture of my mother, Ellen Pauline O'Sullivan, before she got married. This one is a picture of my dad and me on my dad's 90th birthday. And it was, he was in a care facility, and I went to visit him. And he died on my birthday, which was really always hard. It's always been hard to celebrate my birthday because I was very close to my father. I think my father was 45 when I was born. He was older.
Getting ready for this, you think of all these things, and I realized my mother always worked. And she worked because her father, after doing many things in his life, including law and education and a superintendent of a school district in Oregon, in Portland. He was kind of forced out by the Ku Klux Klan. That was kind of had a very strong hold in Oregon for many years. And so as a hobby, he was always interested in horticulture, and he eventually became a seedsman, growing pansy seeds. And my mother would go up and work. He had the office in his home, and my mother worked in that office on kind of keeping that seed business. So my mother always worked.
And my father was bringing in the wash from the pulley line from the back porch. And all these sounds, these horns and whistles and everything was, I ran in, screaming, crying, what's the matter? Something's happening. And he was crying. He said, it's over. No more killing. I wish it was true. But anyway, so that was a significant period of time in my life. So I look at those moments, the surgery cycle, the war experience, whether it was rationing or losing family members, all of these things were pretty heavy on a young child. So those are significant experiences in my childhood.
During the war years, we had blackouts in San Francisco. And we had to literally make big black things to put over the windows, and all the lights had to go out, and an air raid siren would go off. And my older brother Lawrence, who was still home, he was one of the wardens on the street to go to see if all the lights were out. And this one day, I don't remember where the rest of the family was. I mean, they were home somewhere. But Mom and I were out on the back porch, and the back porch of our home faces the Mission District, and then you look up at Twin Peaks and Mount Davidson, and then downtown's over here. And Mom and I were out there looking, and all the lights were out. The whole city was darkened. Even downtown, no lights. But it was a full moon night. Full moon. It was just like a big floodlight. And you could see everything. I mean, I could identify everything. And we didn't say a word to each other. I was standing by Mama. But I was thinking, we can't hide from the Japs. They can still see us. But then my very next thought was, but we don't have to be afraid, because God's watching over us. His gaze is on us. And I'm always safe under God's gaze. Mama hadn't said a word. I think the Lord just gave me that grace.
After Flintridge, I said to Sister Benigna, I'll get in touch with you. I'll call you, don't call me, kind of thing, you know. And for 3 years, I kept saying, when I grow up, I'm going to go to the convent, you know. And I have such a distinct picture. We were a group of girls that hung around together in Mexicali, and I would keep bringing this up, you know, to them. And one of them just told me, for heaven's sakes, jump in the water. You can always come back if you don't like it, you know. And so I thought, oh, good, yeah, I'm just going to go get a visa, the way I got a visa to come, to go to Flintridge. Well, it wasn't that simple, because I was coming to stay. So I was late. I came in the 10th of October, and the rest of the group came in September 8th, I believe it was. And so I had I had a terrible trip up here, because I just wanted to get on the plane and come. And my mom and dad, no, and my sister, no, we're going to take you. And they cried, all 500 miles between here and Mexicali, you know, kind of thing. By the time I got here, I just wanted to pop like a, you know, champagne cork out of the car. Thank you, bye. So when I walked in, this is just where it was.
It felt right.
It felt right, yeah. And Sister Maria was a novice mistress at the time. And Mother Pius was a prioress.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mother Pius. Yeah.
I went to Presentation High School in San Francisco, and I loved that. I love the Presentation Sisters, and to this day, I'm one of their loyal graduates. And they helped me even to write my letters to our sisters when they knew that I wanted to enter. And people are always saying to me, why didn't you enter with the Presentation? You had them longer. And I said, yeah, but they knew me better, so I thought I better not chance it. And I said, no, really, I just always knew I wanted to be a Dominican sister. I wanted to take care of children who didn't have anybody to take care of them. That was my whole goal. And so I tried it out. I came, my friends gave me about 6 weeks. My family said about 2 weeks. And what is it now, 56 years? I'm still here, and I am delighted to be here. It's the best decision I ever made. And I just often wonder, with everything that went on in my life, how did I ever end up here? God is good, really good to me.
So when you made first profession, were you able to see did any of your family come to see you?
No, they were not allowed to come.
No.
But they did come and visit after, like the picture that I took with my nephew, that was one of their visits, but they had to come at a certain time, and that was after we finished saying evening prayer, and they didn't have a whole lot of time, and when they came all the way from LA with a car full of kids, then that was a little hard for them, and I felt sorry for them, because they had such a short time, but they came anyway. Once a year they would come.
We did a lot of different things at Flintridge. Then I was sent to Sacred Heart to be principal. And I was there for 6 years. And I did all I could to help with the curriculum, build it up. I remember the girls came to me one time in the yard and said, Sister, are we as good as the girls at Flintridge? I just wanted to die. I said, yes, we're every bit as good. But they don't feel that. They feel that if it's there in Lincoln Heights, it can't possibly be as good. If it's Glendale, it's got to be better just because it's Glendale. You know, it's that kind of thing. So I did all I could there, and I loved it. It was, every time I went between the two, it was kind of like being torn inside out, because they're so different, so different. And then I went back to Flintridge again. And I stayed there 11 years this time and kept doing what needed to be done, and loved it.
As far as my ministry goes, my ministry nourished me and gave me life, I think, and I think I brought that, I pray God I brought that to my ministry. When I was down at St. Boniface for 6 years, and my time at St. Elizabeth's and a couple of other places, but very much administration work. And my particular love because of the foundation I got for the boys. I love the boys, and to this day, my first choice would be now for ministering, if I was in a school again, would be that I would do co-ed on I would like co-ed on a secondary level, but my next would be ministering with all boys. And I think a lot of that has to do with because of my brothers, all my brothers, my 6 brothers.
Did you like St. Vincent's?
I did, yes. Well, we had some disturbed boys, but once they got there, and I don't know, they settled down, and usually I didn't have too much problems with them. But what I did was organize the recreation, whatever we were going to do. I had all that planned before they got in there, and when it was good weather, I would take them either up the hill We had those, the hills behind, and we played there until it was beginning to get dark. Then we'd go home, and they'd take their showers and go to bed. And the creek, the other thing was the creek. They had a creek down below. Oh, they loved to go there to get their frogs and play with the whatever they found out there.
The whole thing of my life as a principal administrator is that I really did like it. I mean, it was hard. There's no two ways about it. I wouldn't want to do it again. But I really liked it. I liked that being able to work with families about family situations, not just education. It wasn't just whether Johnny's, able to get an A on his paper, but some of the things that were going on in families that, really explained everything that was going on in school.
Cabrini in San Jose was, that Silicon Valley, and we had Silicon Valley, and we had just some of the best teachers. We had a faculty filled with the best teachers I've ever worked with. And I would say that as a principal, my most favorite thing was working with the teachers. I mean, I like the kids, but I love the teachers. I keep up with a lot of my teachers that I've had. And at Cabrini, that was a very exciting school. There was always, fun things going on. They had a huge daycare program that was just sort of a continuation of a school day. And the sad part there was I was the last Dominican sister principal there. And that was very sad because it was such a great place and the priests were wonderful.
How do you feel about the principal responding to the human needs of the children and the parents? Have you other stories, or can you give some examples of why you value that so much?
Well, I think I always felt very honored that they would come to ask me to help them, and not just seeing me as an authority figure, but as a person who they could approach, who would be able to give them some assistance through the hardship that they were going through. The education part is important, but it was also just the meeting the human needs of people that was very important to me, to be able to be there to do that for them. And I always felt that I was approachable for people. They were never afraid of me, so that made me very happy to be able to feel that they knew that they could come for assistance when they needed it.
We would just encourage people who were interested in special needs kids and servicing these children to come to this meeting, and then we would just kind of talk about what are the needs, are there needs there, and what could we do to help out. I do remember looking up when Marianne and I were doing this presentation and watching Rosemary bringing in more chairs and more chairs and more chairs. And
affirming.
It was very affirming, and we just kind of looked at her like, oh my gosh. And she did the same thing. She knew that there was a need out there, but to actually see all this concern and wanting to help these kids and families was just, it was exciting, and it was overwhelming too.
You took the show on the road.
We took the show. I took the show on the road, and Marianne stayed at home. Marianne stayed at St. Elizabeth's, and I worked out of St. Elizabeth's also. But she really ran and developed the program there at St. Elizabeth's, to the point that we, over the years, included educational therapists, counselors, parents, and even to the point that there was a building that's built for special needs, the Mother Pia Children's Center. And that was all under, our sisters who were there, and also the leadership of Marianne. And I too was there at St. Elizabeth's, but there was just this need across, not just in California, but across the United States. And Marianne and I were really the only two who were involved in working with these kids and developed a really sound program. And so I think I hit every diocese in California to do presentations to teachers and administrators and superintendents. It was an exciting time to share that knowledge and create programs. It really blossomed, and that was about 15 years of my life.
One of the things that you're most noted for is what you just alluded to, was your educating nurses.
I taught a lot of the young sisters basic nursing care, not just the physical care, but relating to your old, frail, confused sisters.
Yes.
And Sister Kathleen Marie will tell you, I had her working for me during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
She went home once, a senior member in her family was very ill, and I don't know if she was dying or not, and Kathleen went in the house. And she said to her cousin, we turn this way, turn that way, move that. Cousin said, what do you mean? Well, yeah, you put the draw sheet this way, and then how do you know all that? Oh, I've worked in the infirmary. And everybody who worked in the infirmary knew how to do those things. And they knew, because with order, I always believe that good things happen. Everything has to be in order.
And I walked through Dubose and Mission and almost stepped over the homeless bodies. You know, and it just began to eat at me. There's got to be something I can do to help in this area. I had no MSW or anything like that, no social work, something, you know. They were looking for a receptionist for the Homeless Advocacy Project. Wow. And I said, bingo, maybe. So I went, you know, and they interviewed me, 5 of the attorneys, women, and I got hired. And I stayed 17 years. It is the most enriching experience, you know, ever. My heart, my theology, my perspective in life. I had a faith formation in that place. Yeah. I really did.
Sounds like conversion too.
Yes.
The next role, which was the prioress of the congregation, many wonderful things happened. Okay, many wonderful things for my spiritual growth, for my growth as a woman, and that was in the people I could interact with. Some of my best friends are from those years, whether it be colleagues in education throughout the dioceses, or whether it be colleagues through LCWR, that kind of thing. So wonderful graces.
Mary Dominic, I only realized later, years later when I was in retreat, doing retreat work, and Father Jay Muller, who was a friend of the community, was with us, and he asked at an evening session we had, just we the directors, you know, we were talking about pain and suffering, and he asked Mary Dominic innocently, not realizing, well, Mary Dominic, what was the greatest pain in your life that you had to deal with? And she just burst into tears. She just burst into tears. And I realized it was the division of the congregation, the breaking, you know. And then he was, you know, and he thought it maybe was her mother or her father or something. I knew it was the congregation. I believe Mary Dominic was a saint, and she poured out her life for the congregation. And later on, she did speak to me a little bit about that, and I never realized what a suffering that was for her. And that's when it cemented for me that real loving involves pain and suffering. And that's what the Lord must feel like when he wants to offer us his grace, when he wants to give us, and we don't accept it, or we have a better plan. We think I have a better plan. It all became very clear, very clear.
Value-wise, the present moment, you know.
Living in the present moment.
The present moment with your eyes open and your senses alert.
If I'm asked to do something, or I feel the need to do something, I pretty much say yes. I'm not saying I don't discern if I'm asked to do something, and I don't say I might not struggle with it, but in the end, I know I'm going to say yes. So that's kind of, those are the two foundations that I have. I'm in kinship with all of creation, and I am you, and you are me, and we are one. And I daily must take off my outer garment, pick up the basin and towel, and wash the feet of others.
Not needing to be right. I think that sometimes feeling the need to be right changes how we treat people. And I think that something I've learned in my life, and I remember my sister Jo reminded me a few times is, well, Pat, you're not here for that. You know, you're here to serve the Lord. That's what you're here for. You're not here for yourself. And I believe that so many times in dealing with a teacher, it's a temptation to know better than they do. And I think that humility is extraordinarily important in the role of education. As an educator, we're all learning, and we always say that. But many times we're tempted to act like we know everything. And I believe that has served me well with teachers, that I didn't feel I had to be, nor did I have to be the most important person. Even though I often was, no, just kidding. And I think that I always knew that I looked good because of the teachers. I always realized it wasn't because of me, because the ideas came from them, and the willingness to, you know, I can remember teachers at a meeting starting to talk about us, you know, doing something in the spring, and all of a sudden we had this huge spring festival with dancing and music, and I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, I never would have, you know, but teachers wanted to do it and knew they could do it, and then of course the parents told me how wonderful it was and what a good job I was doing. I thought, oh, yeah, right. You know, the teachers, the teachers were the ones the teachers make the school, yes. And the principal is there to allow them to do that.
I think the last thing would be gratitude. Yeah. That, you know, just being so grateful to our sisters, the supports that we are for each other, gratitude for family and friends and colleagues, gratitude for just how the congregation supports us in so many ways. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've experienced it in my life. And I would wish that for everybody. I really would.
Yeah. When asked, say yes. Just say yes, because you don't know what's on the other side of the coin on this one. So many things opened. I said yes to superintendent. I had no idea I'd end up in China with understanding about schools in China. I had no idea that this is, when I went to Catholic youth, sort of shaking on that trip from the airport to campus, I just didn't know what it would be to be in Washington, D.C., and learning on that campus and going to the Senate and being there when they voted for the Voting Rights Act. I didn't know that would be there. And so whenever I hear issues about the voting rights, I think I had that grace to sit there at that time in our history, in the history of the United States, to go to Gettysburg. And, history comes alive in Washington, D.C. It's just alive. And so my encouragement is to people is just say yes and see where it leads you, whether it's your sisters or others. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's wonderful life outside our convents, and we enrich each other through sharing that.
Have them telling stories that you don't even remember anything about. Well, remember when you did this and when you did that? And I thought, no, I don't remember. One kid said, I remember when he had a tray, they had the food on the trays, mashed potatoes and peas is all I remember, and then chicken or something. And this one boy was serving the priest, so he was sitting outside the priest's dining room when we went by to go to dinner. And they were taught that when visitors came by, they were supposed to stand up. Why, I don't know. But anyway, he said, I came by and he said, I don't stand up for anybody, and he was just teasing me. And he says, I'm sure glad you're somebody. And with that, he stood up, but his tray spilled. And I ended up with mashed potatoes and peas and everything down the front of my scapular. And that poor child, he got so panicky. And I kept saying, it's washable, Poor guy. And he still remembers that the peas and the mashed potatoes going down my scapular. Oh, golly. And why would you get upset? It's washable. So many things in life are washable. So there's some great stories.
Come on, walk through there. Or make a point to walk upstairs to those sisters who can't walk, don't come down anymore. So you know who they are. Grateful for what they have done. Because of them is what we have today.
That's right.
And we all know that.
That's right.
And to say, even though they may not understand it, to say thank you. Thank you for what you did wherever you were in the congregation for 40, 50, or 60 years, 70 years, some of them now. Sister Ellen Mary was 75 years professed.
Yes.
Sister Mary Stephen's going to be 70 this year. Thank them, and also say, I pray for you.
Yeah.
That's all they want.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
I hope, I don't know.
When they ask me to do the eulogies and all those kinds of things, I do those.
Beautiful.
Or the obituaries or whatever. I've become the obituary eulogy queen.
Yeah. But your love for language and your love for poetry and bringing that in, I was so struck using Mary Oliver, her poetry.
Oh, she's wonderful.
She's wonderful.
Yes. Well.
And so the appreciation.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. And I've taught writing, I've taught literature, and I love good literature, and I love to bring it to other people because the insights in fiction and poetry and nonfiction are wonderful, and they enrich your life as much as paintings, as much as music. And so I guess because partly when I'm trying to do a writing like that, I use it as my kickoff point. It helps me, okay, if I get the ending and the beginning, then I know what I'm going to put in the middle.
That's a gift too.
Yes. Yes. I've been blessed. I have. I truly have. I've had a good life, a happy life. This body has served me well, and it's had its ups and downs, but it has served me well. And I thank it every day. And I encourage it, you know. Come on, we got to keep going.
During the past 14 years, I've had the privilege of assisting two principals at in our school's Santa Teresita School. I assisted the two principals, and then now I'm here in Fremont. I have assisted two principals at Our Lady of Guadalupe School. And they each have different needs, and so I always, it's not something that I never know exactly what I'm going to do until they arrive, and then we talk about what would you like me to do. It's so good to go into the classrooms to watch them, and they work so hard, the teachers work so very hard, but a lot is really demanded of teachers today. It's amazing when I think of, you know, we think technology makes things easier. Sometimes I don't know about that, but it's a joy and a pleasure to work with the teachers, and children are always the same. They just never change, and I love that aspect of it. I'm not a disciplinarian. I don't have to, you know, correct their work. I don't have to correct them. They like me, and it's fun to see the children and to listen to them. So. You know, I hope I can continue to, I don't know how much longer I can continue to do this, but I hope it's for a while yet, so we'll see.
Sister Rosemary contacted me and she said, "You need a change of assignment." I said, "I do." And she said, "Yes, you're getting burned out." And I said, "I am." And she said, "Yes. They want a sister in St. Edward Parish to I said, "Well, I'm really too old to teach in the school anymore." And she said, "No, not for teaching, to be in the parish." So I said, "Oh, okay. What do I do?" And she said, "Well, they'll tell you what you do." So I came to St. Edward's. I actually filled the role as pastoral associate. And this is my 10th year now at St. Edward's. It's the first time in my ministry years that I ever worked in a parish. I've always been in internal ministries or in our schools. I love working with the people at St. Edward. They are people of such faith. A strongly Filipino community, but a strongly Hispanic community, and then a originally Portuguese community, which still remains, and then a smattering of everything else. It's been a joy working there.
There's a wonderful quote from one of the older Jewish scriptures. I don't know it's not Old Testament, but it says, and it's sexist language, "Remember, man, who thou art. Where you walk, choirs of angels walk before you, proclaiming, make way for the image of God." And that just strikes me so much, that we have no idea of who and what we are, and of who and what this universe is. It's brimming full of the presence of God in so many ways. Anyway, I think that's my story, unless there's something else you want.